So this is how we do the Melodyne stuff. So we're going to go in here and just check this out real quick. Melodyne, we want to put Melodyne as a plugin into my track between the EQ and the compressor, and I'm going to put it after my de-esser. And I'm going to talk about why we're going to do that in just a second. So I got this here, and I'm going to put the EQ, the Melodyne in here. I'm going to go to Plugin, Ceremony, or you can go to Other, and Melodyne is right there. So we got that. And this is our Melodyne here. And what we can do is we can go ahead and capture this. And this is what you have to do with Melodyne. You have to capture it, because Melodyne, the way it works is you're recording stuff into the plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and hit transfer, this transfer button right up here, and hit go. And I'm not hitting record in Pro Tools, I'm just hitting play. Awesome, and I hit stop, and now it shows me my pitches. And we can see these are the pitches that this guy just sang. And this is how Melodyne works. I'm just going to make this as big as my screen here. Well, the zoom code, zoom? It's in Canvas. I don't want to type it in here because it's like a public place. But it's in Canvas. It's in week 1, module 1, week 1, or module 2, mod 2, week 1, and it's just in there. It says online locations. I don't want to type it in here because this is a public forum here. But what I can do is I can hit you with an email for it. But it's in Canvas, and that's where it lives, in Canvas. So you can always find it. So now in here, got this here, and what I'm going to do is, now when we play this back, we're actually playing it from within Melodyne. It's no longer playing from the track. So we can see this if I go over here to my track, and let's say we can see both of them here. Here's my track here. If I mute this file here, oops. Hold on. There we go. If I mute this here, you're still going to hear it. Watch what happens. I still hear it. And the reason why we're still hearing it is because it's coming from inside of Melodyne. And if I double click up here, why am I not hearing that? What did I say now? There we go. Now we can hear just that track by itself if I double click in here. Okay, and I can mess around with this this vocal here. So I could take it and I can change the pitches. Go ahead and get our pitch tool up. Right, it sounds super weird, and it's still got all the effects on it. So let's go ahead and let's just get rid of all those effects real quick. I'm just gonna mute, turn these off here. And so what we're looking at here, and this is what I'm showing you now is a Melodyne thing that's different from Autotune. Doesn't exactly work the same. It kind of works the same, but not exactly. So I'm just going to zoom into this stuff here. And so there's a couple things we're looking at here. First of all, inside of these are called blobs. And these blobs, they represent the overall pitch of things. And then inside of the blobs, you have this little squiggly line that's running around in here. This is the actual pitch as Melodyne detects it inside of everything. It's the actual pitch that's running around inside of the overall kind of general pitch of each note. And then we have these between the notes. If I click on this, you can see we got these things between the notes, and I can adjust these to be longer or shorter. And this is the drift between the notes. So okay, I can adjust the pitch. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see I can adjust my pitch. Right, I can do that. I can also, if I hold down Option, I can make it so it's like kind of between the notes. I can like that. I can make it like drift between the notes more by clicking and dragging up and down. Here how it's kind of like drifting a little bit more. I can make it snap in real quick. Right, it's like a little bit quicker. Put it back to more or less where it was. And then I can also adjust the timing of things with my the time tool over here on the right, and you can adjust different things of the timing. I can move these around like this. And one thing you'll notice, so if I hold down Option, it takes it out, it stops snapping into the grid. One thing you'll notice about this is that when I move the timing of this note here, it adjusts the timing of the note before it. Right. And then here, you can see this note here has like a, it looks like it kind of goes down and comes back up here. I don't know how well y'all can see that, but it kind of goes down and comes back up. Well, that shows me that there might be something else in there. So what I can do is I can go ahead and cut it with my note separation tool here. Here's this one here. I just click on this and I click it. I double click. Boom. And it separated that up. And now I can mess with these notes individually. Oops. There we go. And see how this one is like sharp? There we go. And this is sharp here. There we go. And if you see how this line's going up and down like crazy here, and over here as well, that's kind of like this vibrato. But if I cut this note out here, and I'm right-clicking to pull up this thing here, so that's what you do to do that. I can just double-click here and see how it's like, if I separate them right where that blob thing is, then it separates them out, and you can see the two different pitches inside of here. So I can go back here and grab my pitch tool again and pull this up here, and let's listen. Right, and there we go. Cool. So Twitch keeps freezing on me. Which plugin is this again? How did you get here? This is Melodyne. This is not something you have unless you have it. This is low-key scary. What do you mean low-key scary? Maria, what do you mean by scary? What's scary about it? I agree with you. I have my own views on why it's scary, but I'm curious to see what, actually, let's hold on to that for the Zoom conversation, because I'd like to have a conversation about this. This is an interesting conversation piece, being able to do all this stuff. But really what I'm showing you is, this is like the magic stuff. And it's like, if you want to be a professional engineer in a studio, you have to use this. You have to know how to use it. You have to use it. You have to have it, especially when you get to a certain level of things. The cheaper version of Melodyne only costs like $100, but it's something that you do need to get and learn how to use and buy eventually, especially when you get really deep into audio editing, because you don't need talent anymore as a singer. So it's interesting you say that, because I used to think the same thing until I actually tried to use something like this when I was singing, and I realized that I'm a horrible singer and no amount of auto tune or pitch correction is going to help me. The only thing that can help me not be a horrible singer is something like a vocoder, and that's both sad and hilarious at the same time. So, and Gio, I agree with you. These plugins can't fix a bad take. There's a lot to it in there. What I don't really love about this is how it makes everything, it makes everything these days sound a little bit too robotic. Even singers who are good singers, they lock them into pitch too much, and and it kind of messes. It kind of makes it too perfect. And then Nanners says you got to at least be close for it to be effective, and that's exactly right. I'm not a good singer, and when I first got Autotune, this is years ago. When I first got Autotune, I was like, yes, I'll be able to sing, and I was such a sad panda because I didn't help at all my ability to sing or not sing. So you still have to be a good singer, and how much you use it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to make straight up pop music, like let's say Miley Cyrus or like the Jonas Brothers or something like that, then you need to use a lot of Autotune. If you're trying to make more artistic stuff, I would say if you're trying to do like Radiohead or something like that, then you don't need to use Autotune at all. Like, you shouldn't use it really. And I'll play you some examples of some stuff, and then you can also use this in a way that nobody will notice it, and you can still keep the humanity in there and just change certain things. And we're gonna get to that. So this is Melodyne. This is like the basics of Melodyne. Here, let me just show you in the notes over here, and let's talk about a couple of these things here. So going back in time here, using Melodyne. So use the correct effects change. Great for writing pop songs for someone else when you can't sing. That way you can demo the melody for the client. Nick, what's up? Haven't seen you in a minute. And you're absolutely right. It can help, kind of. I find that for me, if I'm demoing stuff, it actually works better if I just don't use Autotune and I just try to get it as close as possible with my bad voice, because I'm so bad at singing. And if I put Autotune on it, it becomes a struggle, or Melodyne or something. But we're going to talk about some cool things that you can do with Melodyne here in a second. And they do apply to Autotune, they apply to Nectar and stuff like that, just the way you do them is slightly different. So a couple of notes for using Melodyne. Use the correct effects chain, and that effects chain is over here on the next page, and that's this right here. Your first EQ, which is your low-cut EQ, always goes before Melodyne, and then and there's a reason for that, which we're going to come back to, and then your compressor, and then your EQ, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Remember that Melodyne records the audio into itself, so it is no longer being played from your DAW. It's recording it in, so no matter what you do with the audio and the DAW, if you move it around and stuff like that, it's not going to change the audio in that section because it's being played from Melodyne. You should do all your edits, comping, and whatever to the audio before you pitch correct it. So if you're going to use Melodyne or Autotune or whatever, it doesn't matter. Do all your comping first. Get that take to be the best take you can before you start doing this stuff. And then apply heavy EQ and compression after the Melodyne plugin, which is going to lead us into this page right here. So keep in mind the audio is recorded into Melodyne after it is processed by the first EQ here. So keep in mind that Melodyne is recording your audio in. So our audio starts here on the track, and it goes through our plugin, and then it's recorded into Melodyne. So it's no longer going to play from this track here. So that's why you should always make sure that you do your comping and stuff before you do Melodyne, because if you comp after Melodyne, you're comping the wrong thing. So what you need to do is make sure you get the best take possible onto the track, and then put the EQ on it for the low cut, which you're going to be doing anyway. And you can do the comping and stuff after you're using a compressor or an EQ or whatever. You can do that with your effects turned on so you get a good effect sound. When you're comping stuff together, you're listening for a couple things. You're listening for timing, like rhythm, and you're listening for pitch and making sure, and also, I should say also delivery, like inflection, emotion, stuff like that. And these are the types of things that when you get to be more, oh look, when I move forward, my shirt turns invisible. These are the things that when you get to be a better singer or a better producer, you're going to become more picky about those things. Because when you're a really good singer, you're no longer worried about pitch and rhythm. That's natural. You're just going to be able to do that. What you become worried about or more concerned about or more noticeable, what becomes more noticeable is your emotion, your inflection, your delivery. Those kinds of things are super, super important, but you start to be able to actually deal with them after you've conquered the ability to actually hit the right notes and have the right rhythm. If you can't hit notes and rhythm, it doesn't matter how emotional you sing it, nobody's going to want to listen anyway. So you hit this first EQ, and it cuts out the low frequencies. Now Melodyne, it's listening to the frequencies that are in there, and it's deciding what pitches you're singing based on frequencies. So if you start messing with all your EQs, like your frequencies and stuff on this EQ right here, and have that recorded into Melodyne, it's bringing up certain frequencies that you may not want Melodyne to pay attention to. Same thing with this compression. You want the original, the sound that you're recording into Melodyne to be as close to the original audio as possible. So the only EQ that you want to have in there is this very first EQ that's cutting out the low frequencies. We don't want Melodyne to pay any attention to those low frequencies, so we're going to cut them out, and then we're going to record stuff into Melodyne. So, and then after you've adjusted the audio in Melodyne, commit the track at the Melodyne plugin to turn the pitch correction into a new audio file. You don't want to keep Melodyne in your session. You want to have Melodyne like in a backup session or whatever, but I have had instances where Melodyne, and this is older, but it's still, still something to be concerned about, is I've had instances where Melodyne actually lost my audio because of some change I made or something that happened. So you want to be aware that this is something that could potentially happen. And so after you're done using Melodyne, you've done all your pitch adjustments, you've done all the stuff you want to do, then commit the track. Keep the original with the Melodyne plugin on it, just in case, but make sure you commit that track so it turns it into audio. And then later, if you want to make some small rhythmic adjustments, you could do that to the actual audio on there it's like post Melodyne. And again, this applies to not just Melodyne, but any kind of pitch correction software that you're using. So what will happen then is you'll end up with a new audio track with the pitch corrected audio and the two effects plugins after the Melodyne plugin. So I record my audio, I have my audio on the track, I run it through the EQ, I record it into Melodyne, I do my pitch correction stuff, it's going through the compression and the EQ still. I commit up to that plugin, the Melodyne plugin, which I'll show you how to do here in a minute. And then after that, it's going to get rid of the EQ and the Melodyne plugins from the track, and it's just going to leave us with the audio with the compression and the EQ plugins. Hello, things that I don't want. Okay, so that's how all that kind of works. All right, and that's showing it right here. What you do is you right-click on it, commit up to this insert, and it does it. That kind of shows you how to do all that stuff, which we've already talked about in another class, so I don't want to get sidetracked too much. I will come back and talk about it, but why? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look inside of here. What I'm going to do is we kind of mess with this a little bit. I didn't really do too much to this, so what I'm going to do though is I'm going to make a harmony for this. This is a really cool thing that you can do with Melodyne. I'm going to make a harmony for this track, and the way I'm going to make this harmony is I'm going to actually duplicate the track. Go down here to duplicate. Active playlist. I don't need my alternate playlist. I don't even know if there are any. We're just going to keep the same plugins in here, and we're going to rename this new track Vox Chorus Harm 1. Boop. I'm going to also take my numbers off of here. We don't need to see the numbers here. View track number. Do not need to view those track numbers. Okay, so it looks exactly the same. If I mute this and I solo this, it's exactly the same. I'm going to turn off that micro shift for now. Awesome. Okay, so we got that sound there. There's my thing, and you can see the audio is actually, the clip's actually muted. I don't know why I changed back to the screen, because we don't need to see the screen because it's muted in here. What it's duplicated is the audio that's inside of Melodyne. So if I click on this Melodyne here, now we have this audio here. So there we go there. Now what's interesting about this is that the more advanced versions of Melodyne that you get, the cooler stuff you can do with it. So I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, but there are ways that you can see all your tracks in a session and stuff like that and kind of move things around in relationship to each other. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to unmute the other track here so we can hear both of them. and solo that out. So there's our two things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one. This is my harmony one. And I'm going to go ahead and, hold on, I'm also going to turn this off. There we go. And I'm going to raise this up a few notes. So I'm going to raise it up using my music theory skills. Right? And I can raise this up to whatever I want it to be. Come on, there we go. Right, and you can hear that. Now, you can hear it sounds kind of weird, but it's not going to matter because once we get this into the rest of the song, everything going, and we mess with the mix and stuff like that, we can make it so people won't notice that it sounds weird. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to just, right now it's just kind of following along at a perfect fifth. C to a G is a perfect fifth, and I don't really want to have just a perfect fifth in here. So, I might, so I got this note here. And let's just see what that sounds like. Right, and now we got some cool harmonies going on here. Let me cut this one. Yeah, I cut that before, right? So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one here as well. Get those two notes separated out. Right, so now we can get that sound going, and let's go ahead and just mess around with the kind of distance between the notes. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit just so we can see a little bit better, and I don't need to see this stuff. I can never, oh there we go, like this, there we go. So now go in here to these notes and get this here, boop, boop, boop. I'm going to slide these around a little bit more. Come on. There we go. And I'm going to adjust the timing of this one here. Move that over. Whoa, whoa. Hold down the Option key. Make sure you hold down that Option key. Right? And you can hear it starts to sound like multiple people actually doing this. Right? And I can even go in here, let's say I don't want it to do that. Let's do this. There we go. That's kind of cool sounding. Let's more, and I'm going to move this over here. Do that. Cool. Move this over here. Getting there. Awesome. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to this one by itself. I'm going to adjust the formants, and I'm going to listen to this one by itself. And to listen by itself, you can just double click. So that's what our sound is like right now. I'm going to adjust these formants. Now, what the formant is the throat. It's like the throat cavity right in here, and it's like the science word that we've used, that somebody made up for. The difference between like a tight kind of a pinchy voice kind of voice and a real deep bass voice like this, you know, kind of really nice. And it's not just about like the deep deepness. It's like the richness of the voice, right? So it's kind of, and it has to do with the shape and size of your mouth and throat. That's what kind of creates all that stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust these formants. Now, people always get confused about what these formants, what's happening here. In here, if I hit Command A and I move these down, it's moving, it's got these notes, these like, not notes, it's got these lines inside of the blobs. This is not pitches. It has to do with a richer formant or a pinchier formant. Like that. So if you want to adjust the voice, then you can move this around. Now we listen to it. Right? And that sounds really weird by itself, but nobody's ever going to hear this by themselves unless it's you here now. Right? That's kind of pinchy. We can. Now it sounds like a chipmunk. Right? It's like a funny sound. Let's go down. Let's Command, oops, no, not that. Command A. Put them all down. Right, that sounds more. So do this, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out. Let's go back in here. Let's listen to it with everything. I'm going to pull the volume down on it. Do this. Right, and you hear how good it sounds. We haven't even added the reverb and stuff back into it. Now let's listen. Let's back it up a little bit here, and let's listen from over here. Hey, come on.
Just another night till I saw you there. She was so complex, I had to study every layer.
Try that again. Pretty dope, right? I mean, that's the magic right there. You were talking about magic earlier, and yeah, I agree, but that's the magic right there. Unfortunately, like we said, Melodyne, if you're a bad singer, you're a bad singer. But you cannot hear it? You can't hear it, or you can hear it? I can still hear it. I don't, is that, did you make a mistake with that typing, or? You can still hear it. Well, I don't know what you were saying there, but yeah, but it's totally like, this is it. This is like, you could do all sorts of stuff. Now, what I would recommend with this is that, let's say that, you know, in any case, if you're working with a singer, you always want to have that person sing the harmonies and stuff if you can. This is like, I would call this like a last resort. You don't want to start with the idea that you're going to use Melodyne to fix something or to add harmonies. I'm only showing you this because you might be in a situation at some point where you need to use Melodyne to fix your harmonies. So for example, you know, somebody comes over, let's say Johan comes over and he's laying down stuff. I can hear the changes, or maybe my ears were compromised. Yeah, you can totally hear the changes. Well, no, you can hear the changes because you've been listening to it so much. It's not, you have to remember. Oh, hold on one second before I come back to what you were saying, Jason, because I want to address that, because that's you bring up an interesting point. But before we talk about that, let's just talk about why we would use this. So you would use this. Let's say Johan comes over and he's laying down some vocals for me, and then we do all this stuff, and then he leaves, and then he goes to LA or whatever. He's no longer in New York, and a couple days later, I come back to the song I'm working on. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had some more harmonies or some different harmonies or something like that. That's when I could use this. I could use Melodyne in this kind of case, or when I should use it is when you don't have access to the singer any longer, which is definitely something that's going to happen at some point. But if you're in the room and you're working with somebody and you're like, I want to have this harmony, don't say, it's okay, we'll do it with Melodyne. Do it with the person there. If they can sing it, have them sing it and do it like that, because it's going to sound more natural. It's going to have the inflections correct. It's going to be a better thing. Landon, I'll answer your question in just a second. And then going back to Jason, what Jason said is that you can still hear the changes, and we can still hear the changes because now you're paying attention to those changes, like you've got them under a mental microscope. But keep in mind, just like with magic, if you're watching a magician, if you're sitting there staring at their hands and you already know magic and you know how they do stuff, you can watch them and you can say, oh, I saw how they did that, I saw how they did that, I saw how they did that, because you know how they did that. But if you're just at a magic show and you're just with your family or your friends and you're maybe drinking a little bit and you're having some nice times and you're chilling or whatever, you're not sitting there going, I'm trying to figure out how, I'm trying to catch this magician out. And that's what's happening here, and that's what happens with autotune and stuff like that. I can hear autotune or Melodyne pitch correction stuff. I can hear it all the time if I'm listening for it. And that's one of the reasons why it's hard for me to listen to things like the Jonas Brothers, or one of my, one of the least favorites for me is Maroon 5, because all I can hear is that dude's voice being autotuned. And not because he's a bad singer, but because they've got it locked into pitch so hard. For me, coming from a classical music background where I'm used to the inconsistencies of players and musicians and stuff like that, I can hear the intonation, the tuning not drifting. Because tuning, it's not like, we're human. We make mistakes and things happen. Of course, really good singers are really, really good, but there's a natural drift to things that doesn't happen when you use computers to fix it. And that's what personally, it's one of the things I don't like about autotune. Don't ruin these people. Well, the bad news is if you listen to pop music, everything is pitch corrected. It's all pitch corrected, whether you can hear it or not. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're in the Matrix, Maria. There's no way you can't. It's like, I think about it all the time when I'm teaching people this stuff, and we're learning about, like, reverbs and delays, and we get to autotune. It's like, I think about that dude in the original Matrix movie who's like, I just want to go back to forgetting all this is a thing, and I just want to eat a steak and forget that it's a computer program. I just want to think a steak is a steak. And that's exactly how this is. It's like, once you get into this world and you learn all these secrets, you're just like, it changes things for you. Not to say you can't go back and still appreciate things, but what you can do, and what I try to teach people and I try to instill in y'all, is the idea that you can kind of push back against it when people are trying to overuse autotune and say, hey, let's fix notes where they can be fixed, but not fix every single thing. Let me show you an example of what I would call an interesting way to use autotune. So this is a track I did with that girl from, the same girl we were listening to yesterday, the girl from Hong Kong. Her name is Jessica. And so this is a track that is totally a stylistic choice. So there's a lot of auto-tune in this track here. Let me play this for you. Where is it? This one here.
thick with moments that flicker, then they're gone. 20 summers counting felt a lifetime long. The wanderlust and wanting never steered me wrong, but with each homecoming felt a lifetime gone. Haunt me every night, clear as a bell, clear as a bell. Haunt me every night, clear as a bell, clear as a bell. I hurry into darkness, a heavy perfect fall. There I know you're waiting, as long as I hold on. The wanderlust and wanting never steered me wrong, but with each homecoming felt a lifetime gone.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. But so the thing is with this song, I made it very, very sparse intentionally because I wanted to kind of play around with the idea of using less instruments and less things and still feel how we can get the emotion coming across. And when we were the cello is amazing, right? Super, super cool. When we were recording this, she's a great singer. But we were having troubles with the emotion, like I was saying before, like the delivery, and we recorded a bunch of times certain lines, and it was just like, okay, this one sounds really good emotionally, but the pitch is a little bit off, or this one, the pitch is perfect, but the emotion's a little bit off. And we recorded a bunch of, we were being super, super picky about it because you can hear her voice so clearly. And so what ended up happening was I had to go through and fix like some notes to kind of fall off a little bit pitch-wise. So I just used a few little things kind of before how Lana Del Rey. You know, it's funny you should say that because this was recorded about 3 or 4 years before Lana Del Rey stuff came out. This was never released, but it was interesting after Lana Del Rey stuff kind of came out. I was like, oh, there could be a market for this. So we're still revisiting it and kind of messing with stuff. But you know, if I just applied auto-tune to like the ends of notes and the ends of phrases and stuff like that, not the whole thing, because I didn't want everything to be locked in and super in tune. I wanted to have some drift in there, especially between the notes, but some of the ends of the phrases and stuff I wanted to keep in there. Thanks, I'm glad y'all like it. But that's an example of where you can use a pitch correction software without it sounding like pitch correction. And I think that's a really important thing to kind of keep in mind. Now, another way that you can use pitch correction is as a special effect. And I'm going to apply it into this song because we're in this song right now, but I want to, it's not what I would do with this song, but y'all know that T-Pain effect that's like super robot-y sounding. Oh yeah, I love FKA Twigs. Yep, super cool stuff. I'm glad y'all know all this stuff. It's great music. Yeah. So here, let's listen to this. Now, if I wanted to take this and let's make his main voice kind of more robot-y sounding. And I'm going to solo this out. I'm going to take off the reverb and delay. Let's go into Melodyne here. And first of all, let's see what we can do with Melodyne here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight everything, Command A to highlight it all. And I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to double click. I'm going to get my pitch tool and I'm going to double click and it locks things in. And then I'm going to go over to my pitch modulation tool and lock that in by double clicking. Now listen to it.
Who are you? Who are you, my love?
Hear how like super robot-y it sounds now? And I would need to go and fix this one here.
Who are you? Who are you, my love?
There we go. So, right? So now it's, yeah, now it sounds like you said, Travis Scott. And this is how you could do that. And then if you wanted to, let me put this back here. I'm going to put it back to sounding more natural again. And that's just using Melodyne and nothing else. It's not using the auto-tune stuff. But what we could do is we can keep him here. Wait. We can put him in here. We have this Zoom workshop in 10 minutes, so I'm just going to finish this up, and I want to show you some stuff here real quick before we do that Zoom workshop with the, about your resumes. I'm going to lock this in here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to run it through Autotune. Now, Autotune is another pitch correction software. Everybody knows Autotune. But the difference between Autotune and this one is that Autotune can make it sound even more robot-y. You can make it sound pretty natural with Autotune, but if you wanted to make it sound really natural, I recommend going with Melodyne. And if you want to add that robot sound into it, I recommend using Autotune. Here we go. Here's the advanced one. And with this one here, what we want to do is a couple things in Autotune. Let's first of all change the input type to alto tenor. The key is C major. Flip that in there. Classic, yes, turn on classic mode. Retune speed, crank that all the way up. Humanize all the way down. Tracking all the way up here. And now let's listen to it.
Who are you? Who are you, my love?
And now you get that flip between the notes. You get that flip between the notes. And you can hear that. And that's a very auto-tune thing, that kind of type of thing. And that's how you can always hear when somebody's using auto-tune. They've got that flip in there. Melodyne doesn't really give you that flip. That's an auto-tune thing. So really, if y'all are trying to like really nail the kind of pitch correction game and have all your bases covered, you really need both of them. You need Melodyne and Autotune. You need like at least the kind of intro versions of each one, the ones that cost $100. So yeah, just totally turned into a pop song. Yep. So we go over here and we unsole this. Here, let's put the reverb back on it. And you can hear it in there. Gio says Waves tune is pretty good too. Yep, yeah, and I mean we could spend we could really spend a week talking about pitch correction software. This isn't really, it's not really part of the curriculum to learn about pitch correction software. I kind of put it in as something fun to learn about, and I think it's important. But really what you need to do is take everything I showed you today, take the notes, and you need to go on your own with it and kind of explore, because there's a lot of options out there. I don't have time to cover all the options, but there's like Melodyne and Autotune are the big ones. Waves Tune is a good one. Like I said, Nectar has one. Johnny was talking about something called Ovo as well, and they're pretty good. But the main players and the whole thing is Melodyne and Autotune. And I would say if you are putting a studio together and you're trying to make sure you get all the right stuff for it, you need to get Melodyne, you need to get Autotune for those. And they're not super expensive. If you're paying for the stuff, then I don't see a reason why you shouldn't have Melodyne. It's not like the version that's like, the cheapest version is like $100, but the one that's like $200, $250 or something is amazing. It does so much cool stuff. And that's the one I would really go for. And 250 for something you're going to use this much is not that bad. So let's do this. Let's take a little break here. Just 5 minutes though, because what's going to happen is they're going to come and talk to you in Zoom. We're going to move over to Zoom. I'm going to go ahead and stop my recording.